Future world champion. I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Future world champion.
I'm Elle.
And I'm Pat, and we are Paddock 43.
And this is your F1 fix.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
Hello. We're back in the studio, aka my house at the moment. We wanted to get a car for this week, but we didn't organise that because we're still really tired.
Yeah, we didn't get it in time. But
that's
okay. We are here.
We're here.
We're here.
We're here, and it's actually okay because it's kind of cold, and then I get to sit here in my Ugg and not feel bad about it because yesterday, that's exactly how I watched the China Grand Prix.
Oh my gosh.
How
I know.
good was it?
Oh, yeah.
That timing.
Well, the thing is, like, timing-wise, it was fantastic. Obviously, we would have loved to have done a viewing party, but we just didn't have it in us.
We were just so tired, guys. Everyone was asking so many DMs saying, hey, are you guys doing a viewing party for China?
Yeah.
And look, everyone is telling us, jump on the bandwagon, not jump on the bandwagon, capitalise on the momentum that you've had from the Australian Grand Prix, get going, do things. And it's true, you have to work really, really hard to keep all of that going. We've had an amazing reaction from the Australian Grand Prix across Paddock 43, which, by the way, if you haven't already followed or given us a review on our podcast and you're listening right now, please just go wherever you're listening and just give us a little review. It helps so much. But we just couldn't keep the momentum going for the China Grand Prix viewing party. We would have burnt out and then we wouldn't be here today recording.
I think we needed to have began organising it prior to AusGP, and that's probably like a good learning for next year, is we'll get all, if it's precisely a week after, we'll get on top of it beforehand. But the good news is we are organising a Japan
Grand Prix, which, by the way, I thought was this coming weekend.
No.
We have a lovely break, which is actually quite nice.
Yes.
I also need a break.
Yeah, we're a bit wrecked. But to go back to what you were saying, didn't get to organise China, but it was so good. It was at 6 p.m. on Sunday night, which I know all the UK broadcasters were and if you're getting up, and lots of content creators complaining about the fact they had to get up. We were let us bask in this beauty for once in our lives. And I know that we did have a couple of different invitations. I'll come and watch it with us. But Elle and I are where should we watch it? I, in the end, told my mum to come over, and we just watched it at home, and you watched it at home too.
I don't even think we discussed watching it together. I was I need peace. Tom went to the Orang Hotel, which is where we usually have our viewing parties, and he's like, oh, you should come. He was going with some friends, and I was like, no.
I'm going to watch it by myself.
I just need to watch it by myself. Yeah. I need peace. I need quiet. I want to listen to the audio. I ended up halfway through the race, actually, because we'll get into the race afterwards, but we all know it was kind of a boring race, so I knew nothing was really happening. So I put my headphones in and I listened to the radio, and I just walked up to the Orang Hotel and I watched the rest up there, and I ate some chips. But yeah, that's why we didn't do it. But Japan Grand Prix viewing party, it's happening. Watch this space. Make sure you're following us on Instagram to see when it's coming, because you'll need to register. It is a free event, but we're very excited.
It's always
back
fun
hosting.
Yes, we're so excited. But anyway,
let's get into the week.
How was your week?
My week was good. It was tiring. I'm very burnt out. I am struggling a little bit, but I had heaps of work on. I was at a wedding, working at a wedding whilst China Grand Prix was happening, qualifying and all of that, and also the sprint race, which the lovely Lewis Hamilton won. Lewis. If you didn't know why I just did that, it's because I'm wearing a Lewis hat at the moment. What about your week? How was yours?
Yeah, same thing. I feel like we're both just operating on a level that's not normal.
I know you sound very monotone when you say that. We are just both.
We are just both.
Come on, put some life into it. We're recording.
Elle has just given me another coffee. Week was good. We're exhausted, and obviously there's still a lot of work to do after AusGP. But yeah, lots going on. Parenting is parenting, and parenting is parenting. At least it's been really nice that I've got to spend more time with Gabriel, but at the same time, I'm going to bed really late because I'm just getting stuff done for Paddock. But yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
I think we should get into F1 news.
All right, so I think the very first thing that we need to touch on for the big news of the week was the passing of F1 legend Eddie Jordan.
Yeah.
Super, super sad. Some incredible sentiments coming out from the community about his impact from, being a young racing driver and then to owning his own team and making such a difference. He was a bit of known as like the playboy of F1. He had multiple girlfriends that he brought through the paddock. He was a character.
Massive
he was
character,
interesting.
but even still.
Yeah, he was a pioneer in the sport.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the Sky News commentators were saying like there was a bit of a weird feeling around the paddock where they were like, oh, you see someone like turn around with a mustache and for a second they would think it was him. I know he was iconic because I think he was one of the last owner drivers in the sport that we had.
Yes, yeah.
Which is pretty crazy to think about nowadays.
Like F1 drivers as
well.
Yeah,
and even, I was talking about it with my mum and mum was like, don't you remember, like we saw him drive. Like we saw him drive it at Aussie GP and I was like, I was young. Like I was like, I can't remember. Like honestly, I can't remember, but I know that iconic yellow and that he founded the Jordan team. But yeah, I think he was such a legend within the sport and brought so much to the sport and he'll be missed. And, it's really important to like discuss these things and discuss the icons of the sport, especially for a lot of people that aren't really familiar with him. And even still, like we were quite young, we know about him because obviously we saw him racing, but we didn't.
We were too young.
He
was racing in the early 90s. I was born in 94, so that was definitely not something I was taking in at that time.
Yeah, it's the same thing as like when we discuss Ayrton Senna, we know just how much of a legend he was, but we didn't get to experience him the way like our parents would have experienced him. So, big loss for the F1 community. Thank you for everything you did for the sport. But
moving on,
I think
happier news.
F1 Academy.
Look, a lot of people in the F1 world don't follow F1 Academy, and that's fine. It's very new. It used to be the W Series, as we know, but
which Naomi Sheep used to race in.
We have a close connection to the F1 Academy this year because obviously we've got two Australians in there. We've got Ava and Joanne, and so we are definitely tuning in a lot more than we have in the past, which is exciting because it is almost like following a new sport, but it is still, formula racing. So we're excited that it's back. It's exciting. They had their first race in China this weekend. Lots of events going on, and it was awesome just to see the Aussie girls slay.
They slay.
We're very, very happy with you. And it was actually really cool as well that we had, and I don't know if you noticed this because I was like hooked onto our Instagram all weekend, but obviously we've done a big interview with Joanne and then two smaller ones, one with Joanne and one with Ava at the Aussie GP. And we had some of our community members message us being like, oh my God, did you see the race?
Yeah.
Did you watch? Did you see what happened?
Yeah.
Joanne's got an awesome opportunity. And I was like,
she qualified so well.
And I was, because I also did the reverse grid, and I said, oh, that's awesome that you are now also following F1 Academy. And they said that it was because of our interview with Joanne and a few other things.
That's me patting our backs.
Can you hear that, Pat? So that was exciting to see. So if you haven't tuned into those episodes yet, definitely do. They're also available on our YouTube. There are some 6-minute clips, so really short little interviews, or the bigger, longer one with Joanne.
But so exciting seeing the girls out, especially because obviously, we know Jo and Ava quite well now, but even seeing the other girls and like seeing everything across socials and seeing a lot as well with like Jo and Mliuex and it's really exciting seeing these young women or girls come up within the ranks and like proving themselves and growing, and it's just fascinating and especially seeing them out on the track. Like, it's only the beginning for them, and there's obviously a few more races this year, and I'm really excited to follow along with them. And unfortunately it wasn't great. Like Jo, so she was doing pretty well and then ended up coming, I think, 14th, just because she got stuck behind.
She got stuck. She had some mechanical issues.
Yeah.
The car was not performing. Same thing with Ava. They just had a few situations. But it's the first race of the season.
Yeah, and also these are the sort of things that like any driver has to go through and learn from. And I think they were saying Shanghai's a very interesting circuit as well.
Oh, it's massively. And if you haven't watched, Mercedes have been doing this really well, where they get Valtteri. I mean, they've been doing it really well. We are 2 races in, but they get Valtteri to pretty much cycle around the track and do like a race preview, and he takes you through the track and like the corners and everything. It's quite funny. It's really well done. That's actually really interesting to watch if you just want a bit of more of an understanding of the track dynamics. Definitely go watch that because it also just puts the whole thing in perspective. Yeah.
But hey, I wanted to speak to you about a conversation I heard, and I'm really interested to know your thoughts about this because you and I have both come from a corporate environment. We've both worked in corporate environments.
We love a corporate environment.
We do love a sometimes. And over the coverage this weekend, they were discussing those gross comments from Helmut Marko about Isaac Hadjar. And, there's a lot of conversation still going on about it and how, Max Verstappen was like, well, that's just the way he is and, like, that's the way he talks. And then they were saying, one of the Sky News commentators was saying how, in any work environment, managers have to obviously manage their team, right? And each manager manages differently. And it's the same as, like, each individual needs to be managed differently. There's no blanket rule. And that's why, they say some of the best managers are the ones that can kind of adapt to their staff, right? And so, they were saying that about, granted, obviously Hadjar isn't with Red Bull, but he's with Racing Bulls. It's,
it's within
the same family. And they were saying, obviously, and even like they were saying about Max Verstappen and Liam Lawson, they're both completely different drivers and would need different perspectives and different ways of being managed. Like Max Verstappen is very much like, because this is what we have heard and what we can kind of see is that he's been brought up more in like a tough love. Like he probably responds to that really well, which is kind of the same way that like Helmut Marko would tackle something. Well, it's like Isaac Hadjar, he just needed soft love in that moment, which is that moment that he had with Lewis Hamilton's dad, which is like so beautiful and iconic and such a beautiful moment, right? And then they liken this to Mercedes and like Toto Wolff as a manager and what he has done to Antonelli, right? And they were talking about how looking at Antonelli and George Russell probably need to be managed in different ways. But Antonelli has literally, from what we see, has been coached so well and had his hand held from testing. Again, it hasn't been that long, but even from like last year, as soon as Antonelli was given the seat, Toto has done such a good job, and the team, granted, such a good job in like coaching him and learning and helping him grow within, and like the proof is in the pudding. Like how well has he done? Again, it's only been 2 races and testing, but like how well has he performed? Obviously he's in a good car as well. I am, and we'll get into this, I'm shooketh as well with how well Mercedes has performed. I was not expecting this. Bravo to Mercedes.
I was literally watching your coffee cup just then and I was like, that's about to spill. I'm going to pop your coffee cup down unless you're drinking it.
I just spilled coffee on her couch.
I was waiting for that to happen.
I'm good at getting stains out. But yeah, so I think that the way Mercedes has handled Antonelli, Toto, fantastic manager, applause to you because he has done such a good job and he's proof in the pudding of how you should manage and like manage your team. And Antonelli, the way they have brought him up, and he is a baby. And he's doing so well because I think he's had such good guidance.
Look, he's had nurturing. I think the difference here is, and I don't want to defend Helmut Marko, but he's not a manager. He's not anyone's manager. He's not a manager of the team. He's an investor in the team. And he's just a figurehead. In any other business, he would have been removed from the business for his comments. That is completely normal. We had a broadcaster here in Melbourne who was recently removed from his role as a top broadcaster on a main channel and a main time as well, purely for his insensitive comments. It's funny that F1 does not operate in that way. They are very backwards in that essence. I think everyone should go back and listen to the Kate Reid episode. We definitely touch on that about even a bathroom situation in 2024. Please. And it's funny, I put that clip up on TikTok and someone even commented on that in the last 24 hours. I'm not sure if you've seen that. They said on this video that we have posted, it's a male-dominated sport. Why should they make other bathrooms? And it's kind of like, well, Yeah, look, it might be male dominated, but there's still females involved.
Yeah.
Get with the program. So, yeah. I think that's that. Well done to Toto. He's definitely is a great manager. I think that's also because of how he was brought up. You can see that from his personality as well. But I think it just comes down to the styles, and it is a backward sport in that essence.
Yeah. And just to wrap this up, even the way he spoke about Antonelli as well at when we saw his chat at Mercedes on the Friday, the way he spoke about him was just like, you can tell that they're just investing so much like time and energy into him, and that is the way you should, especially for this like younger generation that's coming up. And I'm really excited to see future world champion. I'm calling it.
Yeah.
Future world champion.
I agree.
Moving on. Social corner, Pat's social corner.
Pat's social corner.
I've got two things to discuss.
Yeah. All right. Well, what are we discussing in Pat's social corner?
Well, first of all, I want to talk about a wag that absolutely slayed this weekend.
We love a slay moment. Who slayed?
Alexandra.
She did. She did slay. Yes.
Slayed.
Yes. I'm going to insert the photo here on YouTube. There we go.
She had two outfits that really shone through, and she had, you know, going off China GP, she had this like beautiful, like almost like traditional Chinese dress, and it was like black, and it had this like red ribboning through it, and obviously people were going wild for her. And then she had this other like pink outfit as well, and it was sort of like a play on like the traditional Chinese outfitting. Obsessed.
I loved how she brought the culture into her outfit for the weekend, and just get a little nudge to that.
So I'm pretty sure she like collaborated with a Chinese designer. So, and a lot of the Chinese fans were obsessed with it. And then the next as well, I just loved, you know, Lily. As in Alex's Lily.
Oh, Alex's Lily, yeah.
She like got Alex a little cake, and then she said like, P1 in my heart.
Oh,
how cute is that?
That is cute.
Yeah.
Little like social wag moments.
Yeah.
Love this.
Yeah, but let's get into
They were the only wags I saw present, I think, at the Chinese Grand Prix.
Yeah, because Carmen was in Qatar. She did like a little girl trip.
Kiki went back to London. I saw
went
that.
Back. Obviously, Kelly is not.
Apparently,
around.
Kelly was here in Melbourne.
Really? She would have been hidden.
Yeah, so I only know this because a girlfriend that I know had drinks with someone that is friends with Max on Sunday night after the Grand Prix at a certain restaurant in Crown. And she didn't get the girl's name, but she said Max was sitting next to a very pregnant brown-haired girl. But Max at one point was like, oh yeah, my wife is pregnant. So
secret wedding.
I don't know what's going on there. Anyway, no, I don't think that would be secret. I think everyone in the F1 world would be there. But anyway, moving on. hot little gossip tip from me and my rumour file. Even though it's Pat's social corner.
China GP, baby.
Whoa!
First sprint of the year.
First sprint of the year. I completely forgot it was a sprint.
So did I.
I messaged Pat and I was like, shit, it's a sprint weekend.
Can I tell you that, look, it wasn't a very entertaining race. I was very happy that it was a sprint weekend.
I know, the sprint added that extra excitement.
And it was needed.
I think
it did. The sprint weekend
it delivered. The sprint definitely delivered. It was really exciting to see Lewis take his first win in a Ferrari, even though it was a sprint. I really thought that was quite exciting. We saw some
really
disasters.
Excited.
We saw some disasters though, especially being Liam Lawson qualifying 20th.
So you know our good friend Luke?
Yes.
I love how savage he
F1
was.
Luke.
F1 Luke. He does like live viewings on Twitch, and he was like, oh my God, Liam sucks. Liam sucks. I was like, you are savage, Luke, but hilarious. But also I feel terrible for Liam.
Look, Liam is having a really rough time, and if we think about the whole weekend, he didn't perform all weekend.
Reaper. The Red Bull Grim Reaper is behind him.
It seems like there is a Red Bull curse. It's not serving him well. There are now, Max came out across the weekend and was like, look, Liam would actually be a better driver if he was in a Visa Cash Up. He just can't. The Red Bull car is just not technical for him. It's the wrong car for him. He would be better off. It's almost like a kind thing that Max is saying. It's savage because he's like, get out of my fucking team pretty much because we need points and you're bringing our team points down. But it's actually quite nice being like, Red Bull's not giving him the best chance because he's in the wrong car.
It's me. I found that very interesting. And then I was like, ooh, okay, then he will perform in that car.
I had to think about that comment quite a bit. So now the rumor is that for the Japan Grand Prix, that look, Yuki could be in that Red Bull car, or Franco Colapinto now.
I did say that
as well. So it's all like, but apparently they had this like emergency meeting, so something is probably going to come out as soon as we put out this podcast.
As in, okay, sorry, when I'm doing this, I'm not excited, but I am. I feel for Liam, and we know that Liam can perform. But maybe Max is right. Maybe it's a little bit too complex for him. Maybe we see Yuki in that seat or Franco in that seat.
Liam's very in denial about that. He's like, I'm a better driver than Yuki. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's a big call.
And I'm like,
the thing that was
you
fascinating.
might be, but I think it's a car.
Yeah, the thing that was fascinating as well is the fact that like Max was like he qualified second, and Liam qualified 20th. Like.
It's a big difference for the team. The team needs to perform. Max wants a teammate that's going to
bring him up.
Bring the team up.
Yeah,
Max is very invested in the whole team, not just like he's invested in himself. But Checo brought them down last year. That's why they didn't win the team. By the way, where the fuck is Checo? Has anyone seen Checo? Has anyone checked on Checo?
He's signing deals with Cadillac.
Is he?
I don't know. That's my theory.
Where is Checo?
You know what?
I had that thought.
He's gone
I feel like
underground.
he's just disappeared.
He's gone underground for now, and then he's gonna pop his head up like a little mole.
At some point.
I'm here. I'm back.
Now we also need to discuss, obviously, Jack Doohan.
Jack.
Poor Jackie boy. Alpine even came out and were like, this wasn't Jack's fault. This was our fault. Like the car stuffed up.
Pierre also didn't perform.
Yeah. I mean, obviously Pierre ended up getting disqualified. So big Alpine.
That happened overnight. We woke up and we were like,
I love that you woke up. I was still very much awake.
I was awake when Lewis. We'll touch on that. I was awake when Lewis came through.
Lewis came through after Pierre and Charles.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I got the notification of Lewis.
So, yeah, look, everyone was like, Jack's definitely going to be out. This is his last race. Look, I have had those thoughts. I don't think Flavio is going to contest kindly to Jack's performance.
Do you know what's funny is there's some videos on my phone that are questionable of us. And there's a video of us when we're like at the end of OzGP and we're walking to the car and I was filming and Miss Judgy over here to my left was like, Jack's not going to make it past Japan
Drunky
GP.
McDrunky.
Jack's not going to make it past Japan GP. I was like, I'm going to film this because I want to prove that you're wrong. I think Jack will make it past Japan GP. Thank you very much. I just don't know how much.
Love Jack. I just don't know. I think Flavio is going to have a lot to say with that, but it also depends on what happens with Visa Cash App and Red Bull. If these rumours are true about Franco Colapinto, we don't know if he's going to go on loan or if it's going to be a Yuki Liam swap. Yeah. Something will happen there. So I think there might be a little bit of a shuffle before we head to Miami anyway. They might stay for Japan, but there'll be a shuffle.
It is kind of like, obviously I don't want anyone to be sad, but it is very exciting seeing things swirling so early on in the season.
Oh yeah, there's always going to be swirls.
Do you know something? But do you know what? Something on the topic of Yuki. Something we do need to say is well done to Red Bulls. The Red Bulls.
Red Bull. No. Visa Cash App Bull Race.
The RBs.
That's too many fucking
Visa Cash App
names.
RBs. No, well done to the RBs because Yuki and Hadjar did so well. Also, Hadjar and Antonelli were the only two rookies that made it into Q1. They did so well, and like I just love seeing, I've done a complete 180 on Hadjar. I love seeing him perform after everything.
You're going to be watching him
week.
so closely and be like, he's my favourite now.
Yeah, Hadjar will probably be my Oscar Piastri for you. You know, when you were like, I didn't like him, and then you loved him.
Well, speaking of Oscar, it was his home race because he's 1/16th Chinese. I would also like to say that I also am 1/16th Chinese according to Ancestry.com. So when
Episode not sponsored by Ancestry.com.
I swiftly messaged Nicole Piastri, Oscar's lovely mum, last night, and I said, when is family dinner? Burn, Nicole, you just liked it. You didn't invite me over.
Yeah.
But congrats, Oscar.
Oh my gosh.
I'm so happy.
So happy.
Okay, do you think Oscar came back in vengeance?
Yes. Also, side note, it was his first pole converted into a win. He did come back with a vengeance. And actually, I have a lot to say about McLaren as a whole.
All right, say it quickly.
Okay.
Say it quickly because I don't want this episode going over for too long.
I know.
Now that the listeners, and we've got like 5 minutes left of recording time.
You know that I talk a lot, but So,
Yeah,
for
so hurry
starters,
up.
he did come back with a vengeance. I'm so proud of you. Mind you, the race wasn't very eventful. I think like there wasn't a lot of elements that happened. So Oscar, he had the speed. He was able to handle the car really well. I think Lando is just proving he is proving my point that I always make about his EQ, not very high. He was
EQ, not IQ.
EQ.
Difference, people.
Emotional intelligence.
Yeah. No, but I beg to differ. We've discussed emotional
I love you,
intelligence.
Lando, but
Lando said that he was actually upset for Oscar at OzGP. He wanted Oscar to have that win, and I thought that was actually a really kind thing to say. Lando knew that Oscar was going to win the Chinese Grand Prix and was just like, hey, can you just tell Oscar to speed up? I'm just getting dirty air. I'm just ruining my tyres. Lando was very conscious of Oscar that whole race.
Yeah.
And also even the celebrations afterwards. He's like, ladies and gentlemen, your Chinese Grand Prix winner. Like, he was excited for Oscar.
Okay,
and I think Lando gave that moment to Oscar really well.
Yeah, but then he made comments like the McLaren team were like, Lando, just think about the team right now. Think about the team whilst on the radio. And then also he was kind of making these comments, like these nervous comments when they got into the room about like, oh yeah, this is the same as, like Barrichello and like kind of making these weird comments about the fact that, Oscar won and he didn't, and it's fine, but I think this is going to prove to be concerning later on in the season. And I just feel, and I'm telling you, I'm predicting this, there is going to be a race where Lando is going to fuck it up for the team. I'm sorry, but I just see it. And I love you, Lando, and I'm so happy that you won last. I
reckon he's working on it. I beg to differ.
I really hope that this team psychologist or Lando psychologist works on it with him, because McLaren, I really think that you have the chance to win the Constructors. You just have to make sure that you work well. Now, another thing that I want to discuss. Ferrari, what the fuck? The end.
Mood. As a once famous Instagram collaborator post between Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Mood.
They're just sitting there wide-eyed like,
how does the two of them get disqualified again? Look, so for anyone wondering what happened, Pierre and Charles, their cars actually came in underweight by 1 kilo.
But then Ferrari said that it was because they did like the one-stop strategy and that the tyres were too high, and then that's why Charles' car was underweight.
Doesn't matter. They did all the testing, they did all the weighing. They can argue it all they want. It still came in underweight, and they have restrictions. So that's their own fault. Now, Lewis's one was due to the skid pan underneath his car having more damage, which I don't quite... Look, I'm not an engineer, I'm not technical, I don't quite understand it, but he still got disqualified.
And
but
then
at least
Ferrari
he had his win.
and then Ferrari came out and said, like, obviously we didn't do this on purpose. No shit, they didn't do it on purpose, but it's fucking annoying because they have no points now.
I know, no points, but you know what was exciting, the silver lining of that one?
What was?
That we saw so many rookies come out and get points.
I know,
and
that's
we saw
true.
Points from Haas. We saw points from Williams.
2 Williams.
Yep, 2 Williams, which was really exciting.
Yeah.
We saw some people that it's like, that actually makes things a little bit interesting. They're probably not going to get points later on in the season. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's kind of just makes for it. Look, I think this is going to be a stellar of a F1 season. This is going to be so interesting.
Yeah, we've said
We are going to see so much happen. We're already seeing it. Might be a boring race, but boy, there's a lot happening behind the scenes.
Yeah, it was a bit of a boring race. There are a few exciting moments, but like a few overtakes that were exciting, but yeah, not great. Honestly, the best thing about it was that Oscar won.
Yeah, and that 10-1. And also, look, we probably need to get Jack, our former aerodynamist engineer from Aston Martin, or we can speak to Kate Reid about this. But I would love to know how Charles did do so well with a damaged front wing.
I was
like,
sitting there watching
aerodynamics, what?
I was watching it with Peter, and Peter was like, I think because on this circuit that, correct me if I'm wrong, on this circuit there isn't that much downforce, and that's apparently why he could perform without the front wing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Interesting. And before we move on from the race and we head into our random moments and green flag, Alonso.
Aye.
No points this year.
No points.
Because he's had 2 DNFs.
Yeah.
And also, that was Alonso's 201st start in F1 since his last win. That is more races than his career.
Yeah.
Like, when is it time that Alonso puts down the helmet?
Yeah.
Look, I'm not saying he's a bad driver. I think he's fantastic for the sport. I think he's an icon of the sport. I think Alonso is a legend of the sport.
He is.
But we already know that Lance Stroll is not performing in that Aston Martin, and that it is very much like a family thing, keeping it on board. Look, you see that from even Scotty James, the TikToks that he puts out. He did one of him and Chloe, Lance's sister, being like, when you own the team and all that sort of stuff. Like, there's, it's a family thing. But Alonso, when is enough?
No, he's still good. He's got another 2 years in him. But I don't know. You did say, I think your bingo card was that he'll retire by the end of the year. So, look, Alonso, love you. You are an icon of the sport, but also could open up a seat for someone else.
I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I think also he'll probably even retire mid-year now. I think he'll have enough as well.
Yeah. But hey, any funny moments of the week for you?
Random funny moment of the week. Ooh, you go first whilst I think about this.
Well, I saw something funny and I was just like, this is a team dynamic that we love to see. There was a press...
One of the dogs just farted.
Yeah. Not a press conference, but there was a kind of... Not a conference, but a press moment between the Kick Boys, Hulkenberg and Gabrielle. And they were both standing there and they had their microphones and then Hulkenberg grabbed his microphone and went like this. And, like, you can't see it. But you see Gabrielle go, whoo! And, like, he put the microphone up his butt. And Gabrielle's like... And then he just goes and, like, sack taps him on camera. And I was like, this is a dynamic we love to see between
boys
team
love
members.
a good sack tap.
They do. And especially, like... Gabrielle, like the dynamic. I don't know. I was like, "Fuck yes!" This is what I want to see.
I read in our notes that you said under funny moment.
Yeah.
You wrote kick, and I honestly thought someone had kicked you, and that's what the funny moment was going to be.
No,
and I was
that
like,
would not be
but
funny. That would
physical violence is not funny.
No. No. Yes, that was a funny moment that I saw from the weekend.
I don't have any, so I think we just move on into red flag, green flag of the week. We still need a little tune for that.
We do need a tune for it.
It's going to come eventually. My green flag of the week was probably our Elle magazine feature. I cried so much when that came out.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it, it's on our Instagram. Elle magazine did, not me, by the way, not to be confused, did a beautiful feature on us and our time with Toyota Gazoo Racing at the Aussie GP, but also just about us believing in the sport and trying to get other women involved. And it was a really special thing because we've worked so hard. So that was very emotional for me.
Yeah, agreed. What about your red flag?
Red flag.
I'm crying.
Probably crying. I cried a lot this week. That's how sad I am. Probably, I think my red flag, I just had like lots of little negative moments this week because I'm so tired. And I'm just not even going to get into them because there's just no point. Yeah. And let's not dwell on the negative. What about you?
Well, I'll start with my red flag. My red flag is just like not enough sleep, even though we're off AusGP. My baby Gabriel, he's just like not sleeping very much. So that's hard, especially when you're like, I was like, I want to get back into the gym, haven't done that. I want to get back into like routine, haven't done that.
The gym has been non-existent this week. I even like looked up on ChatGPT before, just side note. I put into ChatGPT last night when I couldn't sleep, like give me an astro chart on my birth date and time in Melbourne and like where I was born and everything. It's actually really interesting if anyone wants to do that.
I want to do that.
But then after we started discussing, like ChatGPT gave me a 30-day plan to reach my goals. I was like, wow, this is amazing. This is like having my own personal therapist.
I love that.
I then put in how I've been working so much. I've neglected the gym and my relationship. How do I... Low point, that's probably my red flag that I actually asked ChatGPT.
Yeah. But also red flag, I think like it's always kind of sad coming off AusGP because it was such an incredible week. Yeah, but my green flag is same as yours, Elle magazine. It was amazing. It was so exciting. And like what we were saying is just like the fruit of our labour is coming into fruition, and seeing that was amazing. And like...
Seeing who came out and supported us with that as well. That was really special.
And then my green flag as well is Elle asked me to be a bridesmaid.
She's gonna be a bridesmaid.
But also, like, I know as well you get like all like about it.
I know, that's why I just got all weird about it. Then I was like, oh my God, don't tell people.
Merlin's like, what about me? Have you asked the dogs?
Hey dogs, will you be
Elle gets all like
ring
about it.
days.
I mean, I guess it's all because you're not doing like the super traditional like ceremony. You're just having your family at your ceremony.
Yeah,
and
it's
stuff.
just
It's not
like-
like we're gonna walk down the aisle. And
No,
also, it's so
I'm not
weird. It's like
traditional.
such a weird thing because I'm like, you would have been one of my bridesmaids.
I know,
You weren't
I
even
still
at my
get
wedding.
angry about that
I know.
all
I'm
the time.
sorry, but yes, I'm so excited. So that's really exciting.
Yeah,
and
so
I'm like,
look-
we're gonna plan your hair.
Someone even said to me before, I was asking about something for the wedding, and this is just like the perfect description of me. Where is it? It's just on my phone. She goes, I was like, it's like, this is legit the only thing I'm thinking about for the wedding. I'm not a very good bride. And she goes, that's okay. You have other strengths in other areas.
She does.
And that is me.
And that is Elle. And that is why we will organise the hens for you.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's another green flag. But hey, I think that's all we got time for today. We will be, for everyone listening, and that's in Melbourne, we will be sending out details about our Japan viewing party.
We have another exciting interview coming out next week as well, where we'll also do our little Japan primer. We're doing that interview later this week, which is very, very exciting. So definitely stay tuned for that one.
Yes, so we'll probably do like a primer into the interview.
Yep.
But thanks for listening, guys. Hopefully you're doing well. I'm going to finish this coffee and we're going to go and film some stuff for Adidas.
And if you haven't already, if you made it to the end, good on you. But please, please, please give us a little review.
Like, subscribe, all the above.
Just those little 5-star reviews. Looks like someone is out there trolling us at the moment. Just going to say that and put it out there. So thanks to that person that is doing that.
I wonder who that is.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye guys.
I know if I ever see the light, I'll be up in the club and so alright.